We were speaking of mother's life in Japan. We noted that she liked very much their lifestyle, their practical idealism. She even adopted their dress. She used to wear kimono. She visited Buddhist temples. She painted in one or two of them. And she brought, when she came here, a number of things connected with art, Japanese art. Incidentally, she did 2 or 3 sketches of Tagore from different angles. Some in pencil, some in, I think, one in charcoal and things like that. She spoke at quite a number of group meetings, and there is a long talk of hers on woman, and there is another on woman and war. Not to confine ourselves to only what she said in these addresses in Japan, but to draw from her observations, guidance, and Sri Aurobindo's remarks on women in general. I think we should take stock of the general position of women, not only in India, but in the world. As we all know, for centuries, both in the East and the West, the woman has been relegated to a subordinate position. This is not only so in the general society, but even in religious and spiritual traditions all over the world. For some mysterious reason, there is a very hard condemnatory attitude to women. It is all right to say that in India we always have scriptures saying that women must be worshipped. Where women are worshipped, there the gods rejoice, and so on. But in practice, in religious rituals, women have been given an inferior position. No doubt, in the early age of the Vedas, there is no such distinction of status. Women are treated as Shaktis, powers, whether they are divine powers or human powers. They are treated as powers. Sri Aurobindo remarks in his writings on the Veda how in those times, particularly in the context of the gods and goddesses, male and female did not mean what we understand them to mean today, but they are two aspects of the same truth. The male, the Purusha, is the presiding aspect of consciousness, and the Shakti is the executive, the methodizing energy of the same consciousness. There is an equality of status, but later on, by the time of the epics, by the time of the Puranas, there has been a great deterioration. So much so that there are very unflattering references even in the sacred texts like the Gita. In our Indian spiritual, apart from the Christian tradition, in the Old Testament or the New, it is very obvious that woman was regarded as a temptress. Similarly, in the Indian tradition, beginning with Shankara, ending with Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, all through, woman is the culprit. There are traditions, notably among the Jains, where their holy men cannot look a woman in the face. They have to look only at the feet. The woman is regarded as the door to hell. Sri Aurobindo observes humorously that the woman is the door to hell because that door is wide open in men themselves. Actually, we have never an instance where man is regarded as a tempter, whereas Sri Aurobindo observes somewhere else, always in these matters, almost always, it is man who takes the initiative. And still, till the beginning of this century, all over the East, and even in the West, the position has been very unenviable. I had thought that in the West, things are better because we read so many things in papers, journals, and books of the advancement of women. But when I went to the West, I could see that it was a very superficial difference. Women continued to be dependent on man, except when a woman became economically independent. She had really no status. Mother observes or observed somewhere how in France, to spend her own money, the wife needs to have a signature of her husband. The money is not given by the husband. It is her own inheritance. But she can't spend it unless her husband attests. Now, this is a very peculiar situation. In Europe, the position is worse than in America. America, at least, not being bound to any fixed traditions, a young race, conglomeration of races, things vary from zone to zone. Perhaps appearance of equality is there in the Californian region. But in where it is the Bible Belt, things are quite bad. In Europe, things are still tradition bound. It is the male who dominates. This has been the position. Inexplicable. What is most painful is that even a great spiritual genius, a saint whom we all love, like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, he was always speaking day in and day out of Kamini Kanchan, woman and gold. I believe Sri Aurobindo tried to enter into a mild kind of defense of him, saying that he may not have meant Kamini Kanchan, he must have said Kama and Kanchan. But it is not that. He did say it is in all his writings. Vivekananda did not go that far. He saw the potentiality of the woman power. But he had a very unflattering opinion of Indian women, and he called women from the West to uplift the downtrodden women of the East in India. Whatever it is, this century saw a concerted attempt for a change in the status of women, and of the leaders of thought, shapers of conduct, who figured in this context in India. There were Sister Nivedita, Annie Besant, and our mother. Mother did, I believe, much more than anybody else to change the attitudes to women and promote self-confidence, a sense of dignity among women at the level of consciousness. She may not have participated in politics, but this was the first place where in a collective setting women were given perfect equality. I forgot to mention that there were attempts in India to do certain justice, to restore inequality among men and women, and that was in the great effort of the Tantras, who spoke of Shiva and Shakti and established and popularized the concept of the divine as the mother, the divine as feminine power. It led to certain abuses, that's another matter. Every concept, every practice of such a type, religious or spiritual type, had certain exaggerations. But the Tantras did make a heroic effort. And wherever Tantras are practiced, you will see that there is a certain equality of status between the male and the female. Now, coming to our subject of Mother's address in Japan, it was during wartime. So Mother points out that till the outbreak of the war, all over the world, the attitude was even when it was very good, it was patronizing, that women are meant for home, for domestic purposes, to bring up children, raise children. Their empire was at home, but nothing more. But she says that after the outbreak of the war, when so many men were called upon to go to the front, and there was an acute shortage of manpower in Europe, they had to call upon women to take certain duties, and it was found that they were better than men in many lines of activity, like helping and tending the wounded, sympathizing with the sufferings of those on the battlefront, arranging for their treatment, organizing relief. Women were found to show many unheard of excellences, and that began to change their attitudes. Of course, after the First World War and before the Second World War, a lot of other changes took place. And after this Bolshevik Revolution in Russia, which was very backward till then, women came forward and they participated openly in many of the activities which were still then close preserve of men, like engine drivers, engineers, doctors. Otherwise they were only nurses. Now they became doctors. Then school teachers. In America I have seen most of the teachers are women. Most men go to other more lucrative jobs. Slowly in India also now it has started that there is a fairer distribution of works among the two sections of humanity. Now what is special? Mother wants to draw attention to certain special features, special endowments of women. First he says maternity. Nature has endowed them with the opportunities and the powers of maternity. But Mother says, true maternity does not lie in just bringing up children. The woman has to consciously shape the soul that is being born in her womb. She points out certain illustrations that by constant thinking, exerting one's will, concentrating upon some ideal, it is possible to draw a soul which is looking for such an opening. Even at the physical level, she cites an instance when she saw two twins, exceptionally beautiful, and they were looking, she said, each time she looked at them, they looked like two girls which had been painted by an English painter, Reynolds. So when she talked to the mother of the children, how her children resembled the painting of Reynolds, she said, how very interesting, because I had that picture at the foot of my bed, and each time I woke up, each time I went to bed, I would concentrate on that picture, and felt, would to God that I have such children. And she did get girls, babies, exactly as beautiful, as elegant as those in the picture. So mother observes, if that kind of effect can be secured only even at the physical level, by concentrating on thought and on willpower, we must be able to produce greater effects. So she says, it is very important. What you think, what you feel, what you hope for, an atmosphere of harmony and peace is indispensable during this time when the woman is carrying in her womb. But how many are circumstanced? This is an ideal condition, but how many are circumstanced to do that? That's another matter. The Greeks, for instance, they had this, they knew this. So they always tried to arrange a very harmonious and beautiful environment at home, so that the woman was always surrounded by beauty, by elegance. This aspect of life must be kept in mind. This is addressed to both men and women, that when a woman conceives, at least till she delivers, care must be taken to keep out quarrels, anger, fights from the environment. Otherwise, there is a bad effect on even the formation of the child. There are instances when either both the partners or one is dead drunk. And in such cases, it has been observed that the offsprings have some physical defect, either some defect in the senses or sense organs or the brain, it depends. Similarly, if the input during this period is good, inspiring, helpful, nourishing, the child to be gains. So the stories in our Puranas of how certain children heard their mother being told, certain mantras, certain high instructions, they received those things and they manifested those truths in their own lives. They are not just stories, but they are legends and narrations with a purpose. So the woman has a great responsibility in shaping the souls in her womb. And speaking as she was in the middle of the First World War, she shows how one civilization is receding. The civilization of the mind is receding, and a reign of the spirit is on the horizon that calls for a change in attitudes, change in outlook, and it calls for a certain preparation on the part of women particularly to prepare for the future. They have to pay attention to the spiritual influx that has started. They should have a new idea of a new world, a new race, and equip themselves for the future. She points out that the future man is not a perfect edition of the present man, but he is something different. He carries a different charge, a charge of the spirit. And in this new species, as it has happened all along in our evolution, something of the old is going to be lost and something new will grow. She points out how man has lost certain characteristics of the apes, like flying, like jumping, alacrity and things like that. Similarly, she says some unwanted features. The present man, both man and woman, will lose. And she refers only to the replacement of the intellect by intuition. The intuitive faculty will more and more take the place of the reasoning intellect that characterizes our civilization. Speaking of intuition, it is a fact that woman is gifted with a certain inborn intuitive faculty. Men, as a rule, are more given to the exercise of the intellect, reasoning, the reasoning mind. But a woman, normally, she has a certain instinctive feel of things. And you know, instinct is only a formation of intellect, of intuition at a lower level of consciousness. But they are more gifted with an intuitive feel of things. They don't argue, they don't logicize, but they have a hunch and they see the situation directly. So this is an advantage that the women have. Also, from the spiritual point of view, they can harbor and manifest more of love than man. Man is very self-centered. He always looks at himself, how things affect him, and his love is usually an extended self-love. But woman is not made that way. Nature has made woman in such a way that it comes natural to her to radiate her love, self-giving. After all, what is love? His mother describes love is self-giving. She gives spontaneously. And nature has equipped her with that faculty because she has to bring up a child. And the spontaneity with which she gives herself to the child, the love that she pours on the child, it naturally enlarges her being. She, a woman, can always take care of a large family than a man can. This gift of nature to the woman along with her intuitive faculty. These are certain advantages. Somehow they are taken for granted, and no special attention has been given to this feature. In the spiritual unfolding of consciousness, it has been found that women are more ready because they are not that selfish. They are not that self-centered as men are. You must have, those of you who have heard our Shraddhalus talk on the hidden side of our ashram, know how Sri Aurobindo was not very enthusiastic in admitting women to the ashram. But it was Mother who pointed out to him that if he wanted an integral spiritual life, women have to be admitted. And he agreed. And that is how we find today, I believe there are more women here than men. With what spiritual advantages, I am not in a position to judge. But all the same, Buddha also, he did not want women to be admitted in his order. It was only at the repeated insistence of Ananda, his first disciple, that he allowed the first woman, nun, in his order. This reflects certain of the background of Indian spirituality. That's another matter. I think it is 7 o'clock. We will continue the discussion next time.